Hey guys, Kevin Shaw here, editor-in-chief of Mopar Connection Magazine. Obviously today we are working on Marsha. You saw in our second episode where we cut out the really most rotted parts of the car. Thankfully none of it was in the floors or the frame rails. We do have some stuff in the floors, but the trunk didn't need to be gone through, which was a blessing. And just a little bit of cancer here in the lower quarters, and it's pretty much to be expected for a convertible that lets everything drain out. And so over the years everything's collecting right here and here. It's got no place to go, so it made sense that all these pieces were going to be rotted out. Thankfully the other side wasn't nearly as bad and didn't need the rear half of the quarter, just needed a little bit up here in front. Before we get too far into the weeds, I wanted to show you that this has become my new favorite tool. I've gone through a lot of different air chisels. I quite frankly was going cheap and running over to Harbor Freight, and I had burned through, I want to say 3 or 4 of the Harbor Freight air chisels before I finally broke down, went online and bought a quality Craftsman air chisel. And this isn't even the big daddy that they sell. There's even one that's even more heavy duty than this. And thankfully, as long as we are totally oiled up, this guy works like a charm, has totally knocked off all of the remnants that we simply couldn't pull off before. So this air chisel has really earned its keep today, and we're going to show you a little bit of it in action, both in time lapse and on the other side. We then jump to our, we have since broken our cutting wheel. Well, we had our little Dremel with a cutting wheel. I'll replace this wheel before we keep going. And then of course I got a handful of chisels and my ball peen hammer, just gathering up a little bit of tools that we're using for today. And then can't go without a good set of vice grips, just to get, if you got a good bite on a piece that just wants to wiggle off, you can yank those guys off. And then this tool, which I have really started to enjoy, is the pneumatic scaler. This guy really had not gotten a lot of use out of me over the years, but boy, it has sure earned its keep here. These little magic fingers go through and knock off all the big scaling, all the big corrosion that's built up over the years on these panels. And this way I don't have to knock it off with a wire wheel, you know, sitting there grinding and grinding and grinding with the wire wheel. This guy knocks it off in just a couple seconds, which has been really great. And of course, speaking of our wire wheel, I've got both our Milwaukee grinder with a wire wheel. I've also got a couple flap discs just for those last pieces that just wouldn't come off. And but this wire wheel, of course, always wear eye protection, if not full face protection, when you're using one of these guys, because all of these little wires do break off and it's got to go somewhere, and 9 times out of 10 it's coming at you. That's just Murphy's Law. But yeah, wire wheel and the scaler has knocked off our surfaces really nice and clean. And of course, as you can see, that's a little glossy. We've been running over everything with our beat to hell can of Pour 15. Can't even get the lid off of this stuff. It seals so stinking good that unless you clean out the lip, you're gonna have a can that looks like this. So we're gonna end up finding another can for our Pour 15 today, because I don't want it going dry on me. I'm gonna have to use every inch of this when it comes to the floorboards. Unlike the other side, the driver's side, that just had a lot of remnants from where we cut off, we just don't have really big remnants. In fact, this is all body filler. That's not even metal. We can take that off with a wire wheel. We're gonna cut all of that off with the Dremel with the cutting wheel. Just get that all cleaned up and get some fresh metal there. We just don't want that nastiness. So really, I don't need the air chisel on this side. We're gonna use the descaler, knock off a lot of this big stuff. Oof. And then we're gonna Pour 15 the whole thing, and then we'll start taking measurements on our quarter skins and start making patches. And that's gonna be the exciting stuff. We're gonna have to grind all this paint off, get a nice clean bit of metal so that we can stitch our new patch panels to that. You might have seen it in the time lapse. I like my body dolly. I couldn't find my dolly kit. I've got about 3 or 4 really good body dollies, and I'm so well organized that I organized them away into a place I can't find them. So I got a piece of channel and use that so I can get our so I can get the lip on the back end of the quarter. There she is. Beautiful. There. That looks great. Okay. Let's see how much you want to knock off. All right. Okay. God. Yay. Boy, that came off nice. I'm telling you, this is the ticket right here. This guy's the freaking ticket. Love it. Ah. Love having tools that work. Right. Thankfully, Pour 15 is pretty forgiving in that it doesn't have to be a perfectly clean surface. It will bond pretty well to even contaminated surfaces. It gets in there pretty dang good and leaves a nice thick even coat. I will tell you though, I learned earlier when I was doing the underside of the trunk, you better be wearing some gloves or something, because this stuff stains your hands and it ain't gonna let go. I don't care what you use. I mean, lacquer thinner, mineral spirits, turpentine, you name it. You're gonna smell like a chemical factory, but it still ain't gonna come off your hands. This stuff just gets on and it stays on. I'm not terribly concerned about the paint because I'm grinding all that paint off anyway so I can weld and so I can stitch my panels in. I mean, obviously you would want to mask it off and do a better job than I am, but I'm being careless. I think we have exercised the demons. I think we've done a decent job here. We're gonna, since we're here in the shade, we're going to take our measurements off of here. Now obviously, as you can see, this replacement quarter panel does not include anything forward of the door frame. So I'm not entirely sure how deep our metal goes. We made the cut at 21.5. If we go 21.5 here, that puts us, boy, that gives us 1/2 inch. So I think they just ran the stamping long so that you could trim it off. I'd rather have extra than not enough, so I think we're in safe shape. We took our measurements from here down. That was 4 inches, and we took some preliminary preliminary measurements. I think our body roll isn't nearly as much as it ought to be. So this may require some some coaxing to fully roll in. We just won't know until we start cutting, really. I'm gonna take some extra measurements. You know, they say measure twice, cut once. I say measure 4 times and question every one of your measurements. Then you cut. Because I have burned myself before. So we'll take a few more measurements and then we're gonna make our markings. Well, I'm pretty much there. Here we go. Got a little bit of a nip right there. I'll have to clean that up. I'll tell you what, this boy is definitely gonna need some pie cuts. Alright, so when we first put up the video, when we picked up the NORAM quarter panel skins, we had quite a few people reach out and say, hey man, you're not going to want to use them, they're just not, they're not even close, and blah blah blah, they're not going to fit. And I'm not going to lie, you know, NORAM says it themselves. They're like, these are going to take a lot of work to make right. And I've been beating on them for about an hour, just this one piece. And the more rolling we did, surprise, surprise, we used up more and more material. So now we've got a larger gap than we wanted. And that's going to have to be filled. And I'm going to have to fill in with some thin strips of steel and then stitch it all together. So it's going to be a lot more Frankenstein and a lot uglier than I wanted. I had to make some pie cuts along here just to get the roll. The roll still isn't right. I'm gonna make, I made all my drill holes here, and I made all these here to fill in. I'm gonna skip fill and fill all those, so I got a good weld to the bottom. I'm gonna try to drill and do the same on lip. But here's the big kicker, here's the problem. There's a nice rolled edge here that runs right along the inside that accommodates the wheel skirt, or wheel opening, or wheel liner, I should say, the wheel liner. And we don't have that here at all. It's not even remotely close. It's not there. I don't have it. And I'm not really that much of a body man that I can make that from whole cloth. So I'm gonna do my best to try to get a little bit of a bead, a little bit of a roll there. It ain't gonna be great. So unfortunately, I think Marsha's gonna get a lot more mud than I was hoping. It's just not looking very good for her, unfortunately. Well, I'm just going to admit it. My attempt at a patch panel didn't really go very well. And as you can tell, it was pretty slapdash. But in all fairness, I was trying to get the car out and ready in time for the Holly Mo party, so you can kind of excuse the hurried nature of the patch. Thankfully, we secured a deal with Dave Chamberlain of All Classic Restorations, who agreed to take on Marsha as we took Zombie off of his hands. So he's going to be stepping up and correcting a lot of my mistakes, as well as fixing all the lower quarters and replacing much of the floor panel that definitely needs a great bit of work. C bodies just don't have the aftermarket support that the A, B, and E bodies do, so we're trying to use what parts we can find and what salvageable parts we can get from good quality donors. So again, look out for more updates on Marsha in the coming months. So again, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, maybe leave a comment, and share it with your friends. It'll definitely help us grow the channel. And if you want more awesome Mopar content, please make sure to check us out over at www.moparconnectionmagazine.com, where new articles are written and published every day, entirely subscription free to you.